glorious devotees, welcome to another presentation on Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini, the monsoon clouds of sweetness. Today's discussion, we will be going into Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's in-depth explanation of the completely independent nature of bhakti, in that bhakti works by her own independent free will through the agency of the devotee. Vishwanath Cakravarti Ṭhakura to this point has presented some very deep esoteric truths regarding the nature of bhakti, and in this section of Madhurya Kadambini, he will elaborate on those truths in such a way that any misconceptions will be eliminated that could possibly hamper the devotee's understanding and spiritual advancement. Let us now dive deep into this appreciation of how bhakti functions on her own and is completely independent of outside influence. Vishwanath writes, if one takes the word yadrichaya to mean by some great good fortune, then one must ask whence this good fortune arises. Does it come from pious activities, or is it independent of such works? If we accept that pious activities are the cause of this good fortune, then that means bhakti is subject to one's good deeds, which contradicts what has been established, that it is self-manifesting. Does it come from pious activities, or is it independent of such works? Within this world, humanity is very accustomed to seeing a correlation between the piety of man and an avenue to religious life. However, here we will find in Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath introducing the concept of entrance into the practice of spirituality being independent of any material action on the part of the aspiring spiritualist. This is a unique idea which seems to stand in opposition to the contemporary held ideals regarding religiosity and spirituality in the world today. On the other hand, if this good fortune is not the result of pious activities, then the cause, being inexplicable, remains unknown. If the cause of the fortune itself cannot be ascertained, how can we accept that it causes bhakti? How can one thing that cannot be ascertained be identified as the cause of something else? Vishwanath continues. If, on the other hand, one argues that the Lord's mercy is the cause of bhakti, we are still obliged to inquire after the causes of his mercy. Inquiring even further from one cause to the next, one is unable to come to any conclusion. If one then argues that the cause of the bhakti must be the Lord's unconditioned or causeless mercy, it must be asked why this mercy is not seen everywhere, implying that the Lord shows favoritism. If bhakti is not seen everywhere as being available to everyone, then this would indicate that there is some favoritism on the part of the Lord, and one could therefore attribute the fault of favoritism to the Lord, because we can see that not all living entities strive for nor attain bhakti. Vishwanath continues, the Lord is indeed partial to his devotees, but the partiality that the Lord shows in protecting his devotees from the persecution of evil elements does not bring fault to the Lord's character, but rather becomes an ornament which enhances his character, since this affectionate obligation to his devotees, like a powerful king, subjugates all contradictory factors. So we do see that there is some favoritism by the Lord for those who are already engaged in devotion and a life dedicated to his service. This is, of course, a distinct favoritism bestowed upon those who are his devotees, as opposed to a favoritism to humanity at large, who, for the most part, is enjoying and suffering under the stringent laws of material nature. We now return to an earlier verse that we've already discussed, where Krishna instructs Uddhava, Yadrichaya mat kathadal jata shradas puman na nivino nati sakto bhakti yogo sha siddhi da. If by unexpected association with devotees one develops faith in my glories, that person, being neither very disgusted with nor very much attached to material life, is qualified for bhakti and will achieve perfection. Now, in his commentary to this verse, the esteemed Sridhar Swami glosses the term yadrichaya as through the arising of some good fortune. In reading this explanation by Sridhar Swami, one could say that, well, perhaps the good fortune is the fact that the individual has had some great piety on his part, and therefore he has qualified himself for entrance of bhakti into his life. Vishwanath, in commenting on Sridhar Swami's commentary and use of the term yadrichaya, explains that Sridhar Swami is referring to fortuitous contact with saints or sadhu sangha, or the good luck received by their causeless mercy. Vishwanath will go on to explain that the bhakti situated in the heart of the devotee is truly the cause of bhakti, or the good fortune coming to another living entity. At this point, we could ask, if this mercy of the devotees is the cause of bhakti, how can this be reconciled with the fact that bhakti itself has already been declared to be completely independent and having a self-manifesting nature? Vishwanath will now explain. If the unconditioned mercy of the devotee is taken to be the cause of bhakti, one may also ask whether it is proper for devotees to be partial. The Bhagavatam, however, accepts such partiality as the natural characteristic of the Madhyama Bhaktas. This is why the Lord's partiality is understandable, for he is always under the control of his devotees, and so his mercy follows theirs. In fact, it is the bhakti residing in the devotee's heart that is the main cause of his bestowing mercy on others. Since there is no possibility of his mercy manifesting without bhakti, we must conclude once again that devotion is indeed completely independently self-manifesting. We can see in the Bhagavat Purana that the mercy of Bharat, Vyasadeva, and Sukadeva was certainly there to benefit humanity, but not all persons were benefited by their mercy. In this way, we can begin to enter into the understanding that Vishwanath is trying to convey here regarding bhakti coming from the Madhyam Adhikari and his objectivity in dealing with different segments of humanity. In his statement, we saw that the Lord himself is always under the control of his devotees, and so his mercy follows there. What Vishwanath intends to show by this statement is that the Lord, out of his deep loving affection for his devotees, is controlled by that love to such an extent that where they extend their mercy in human society, he facilitates and nourishes that personally. The significant verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam in regards to the subject we're discussing reads as follows. An intermediate or second-class devotee called Madhyam Adhikari offers his love to the Supreme Lord, is a sincere friend to all the devotees of the Lord, shows mercy to ignorant people who are innocent, and disregards those who are envious of the Lord. So this showing mercy to ignorant people is the manifestation and the entrance of bhakti into human society and the life of any individual aspiring spiritualist. We also find the following verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. All the great virtues manifest in a Vaishnava's body. For it is said that all of Krishna's qualities are transferred to his devotees. Again, we can see there is support for this idea of the Shakti, the Creeper Shakti of the Lord, manifesting through the agency of the Lord's devotees. So we will continue and go into one other esoteric understanding in regards to the devotee's bestowal of Krishna's Creeper Shakti. Vishwanath is now shoring up his philosophical position, and he continues in his text of Madhurya Kadambini. In the text, if one attains faith in the service of the Lord by some great fortune, that's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the words some great fortune specifically referred to the mercy of a devotee, a fortune that surpasses anything arising from good works. One may argue that since a devotee is also under the control of the Lord, it is impossible for his mercy to be primary, but this is incorrect, for the Lord himself has given primacy to his devotees by submitting himself to their control and by turning his power to bestow mercy over to them. Although the Lord, as the indwelling supersoul, limits himself to overseeing the jiva's external sense activities in accordance with the destiny given them at birth, he is still observed to bestow his own mercy on his devotees. As the Lord says in the Gita, by my grace, my devotees attain the supreme peace, which exists fully within me. However, the grace spoken of here refers to the power of mercy, kṛpā-śakti, that he bestows on his devotees, as just explained. At this point, we see that Vishwanath Cakravarti Ṭhakura is employing logic, stuna, nakanana, nyaya, a logic of driving a post, meaning that he is now reinforcing the tattva which he has presented in various ways in order that we as students can fully comprehend the meaning. The point is being made from the Bhakti Rasamrita: if one attains faith in the service of the Lord by some good fortune. Here, great good fortune, Aarti Bhagya, refers to something that surpasses even the good fortune that arises out of pious activities. Such fortune can only come from a devotee's mercy. Now, in both Jiva's and Vishwanath's commentary to this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verse, they write the following. Jiva says, the word Aarti Bhagya, by extreme good fortune, means by distinctive impressions arising from association with devotees. And Vishwanath himself writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu commentary, Aarti Bhagya means by special impressions arising from association with great devotees. More driving of the post. A devotee, like everyone and everything else, is under the control of the Lord. Of course, this could be argued. Is not the root cause of the devotee's mercy the Lord's inspiration? We find that in the explanations that have been given here, the Lord has voluntarily subordinated himself to the will of his devotees by bestowing his power of compassion, Creeper Shakti, upon them. So he has voluntarily given this excellence to glorify his devotees in the world. We find a very deep explanation of all this given by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha, beginning with Anucheta 180. We will not dive deeply into this, but just to review the point he is making there, he writes, thus it is established that Bhagavan's mercy, which is present in his devotees, descends upon another living being either through the medium of saintly association or by the blessings of a devotee, but not independently. So we see that the Lord, he's given his Swarup Shakti in the form of bhakti to his devotees. And he can only reciprocate with his Swarup Shakti, and thus his reciprocation is with his devotees. Jiva Goswami very comprehensively enters into the compassion that is necessary for the bestowal of mercy comes through the devotees of the Lord who in their past have had some contact with the miseries of material existence, and because of that contact they are able to have the compassion that effectuates their distribution of bhakti to others as empowered to do so by the Lord. So the Lord has given his Kṛpā Shakti to his devotees, and it is distributed specifically by the Madhyamadhikaris. Madhyamadhikaris have the specific characteristic of still discriminating in the world between the Lord and the Lord's devotees, the innocent and those that are inimical, whereas the Uttama Adhikari is so immersed in loving exchange with the Lord that he does not employ such fine discrimination in his observations, but rather sees everyone as completely engaged in the Lord's service. I want to sincerely thank you for viewing this presentation on Madhurya Kadambini. I sincerely hope you have found some spiritual nourishment here and that you will return to future presentations on these very important instructions given us by Srila Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura. Hare Krishna.